Hello everyone, Lego is back with a little small demo project here. Um, I know Inkscape has a live path effect called Sketch, and it's used for, well, making something into a sketch. But I thought to myself, why not try and make a little demo here to see if I can make something that looks like it's handwritten, but obviously isn't. So to start off with, we're just making a very simple test here. This says, or it's going to say, once I'm done with the proto writing, it's going to say handwritten Gallifreyan text. And I thought I was smart. I thought I could do this in a second, just 2 minutes max, boom, boom, done. But actually, I really wanted to have these interlocks between the letters, and that turned out to be a little bit harder than I thought because of the placement of the various letters. So I spent a good chunk of my time not doing the demonstration I hoped, but instead just fiddling around with the various placements, iterating until I could find a compromise and get the interlocking segments that I wanted. So yeah, that took a while. Well, obviously it's a very small project, but relative to the text, it took a long time. And having cut that, made a backup off to the right side, I'm now using some simple beautifications, or at least some simple setup to give it the feel that I want, filling up some empty spaces, adding the lines and the dots. Not a whole lot to it, really. I just need this to be a finished piece of text before I do anything with it. The only trick I'm keeping in mind here is that I know the sketch tool is a little bit messy in terms of, it's not very precise, and that's part of the intention, because if it looks too rigid, too straight, too everything, then it doesn't look handwritten. So I know for a fact it messes up a little bit of the placement, final placement. So I'm making sure to give a little bit of extra room between things that aren't supposed to touch, that I probably could get away with otherwise. A little bit of extra space between letters that are supposed to have stuff and aren't supposed to have stuff. I'll get back to that in a moment once I actually get to the effects. But for now, everything is done. I made a backup of the finished piece and I applied the effect. And at that point, I realized that this particular life path effect treats everything as a stroke, which I think is a first for me. Never really dived into that before. I used this effect previously in another video for the what was it? Flatline, the Flatline project. But at that point, I didn't realize it treated everything as a stroke. So I just spent a minute getting everything turned into paths, which is what I usually do to unify them. But now it turns out, well, I actually need everything to be strokes this time. That excludes the dots for obvious reasons, but it also means that I need to rethink my approach here. So I took a backup again, made everything thinner, because the thinner something is, the better this responds to the sketch life path effect I found out. And then it's just a matter of fiddling around with the various settings until I get something that is approximately okay, but still readable. So I'm paying a lot of attention to the gaps, especially the gaps, and the start and end points of the line modifiers, because they are the ones most likely to be skewed up and misplaced during this process. Nothing I can't fix in post processing, but the more I get right first time means less post processing for me. So I spent a bit of time figuring out what makes this tick, and overall I get what it does, and I get the various settings, but at the same time, it's a bit. It appears to me that some of the settings don't really affect anything, at least not at this scale, because I realize for this effect in particular, the target area here is probably too small. And probably the best solution I could come up with if I were to do this again would be to make every stroke very thin before I applied the effect. So I don't know if that would solve everything, but it would at least solve something. And if I ever return to handwritten, pseudo handwritten Gallifreyan, I'm definitely going to keep this in mind. But for now, I'm pretty happy with the result. It got the overall effect that I wanted. Now I'm trying to just add a little bit of depth and detail to the paper without resorting to a texture because it feels a bit cheap. Like you got off with the cheapest option. I don't have anything against using textures, and I use them myself, both vector and raster graphics. But for this simple thing, I wanted to just make something with without resorting to filters. Sorry, resorting to textures. So I added a little clip group and some darkened edges, like almost like parchment, and used a little bit of a hatch in the middle to just give it a little bit extra detail. And then overall, I just kept this color scheme simple. I kept everything minimal. Didn't really want to go overboard with anything. And I mean, if the end result is not going to fool anyone, I think everyone can clearly see that this was not exactly handwritten, but at the same time, it does look pretty nice, and it has that rough quality to it that I do like. So it gets a pass for me, and this demonstrates how you might make something that looks like a handwritten or sketched out in Inkscape. Thank you for watching, and I will maybe see you. Bye.